Hello, everybody. It is John Pollock alongside Jimmy Korderas, and I will be playing the role of Elegante to Ric Flair here, as he's going to have to be carrying me, as my voice is probably not going to last. But we will see. We'll see how great of a worker Jimmy is here. What kind of preview he can pull out of me?
I don't know. I mean, like there's that old proverb that certain talents can wrestle a broomstick. I don't know.
You might be put to the test here, Jimmy.
Yeah, as long as you don't Enzo Amore me, we're cool.
Oh, that's true. Well, let us chat about Hell in a Cell, which is happening from the Little Caesars Arena, the newly created Little Caesars Arena. The Joe is no more in Detroit, and this will be the WWE's first stop there, which the UFC is doing a pay-per-view there in the not-too-distant future as well. So any memories, first of all, of the Joe that come to mind for you?
Oh, yeah, tons. I mean, the Joe was the scene of the infamous running down of Steve Austin.
That's right, in the parking lot.
In the parking lot. I did it for The Rock. You know, classic line there. Also, the infamous Zamboni.
That's right, with Steve Austin.
Was done at the Joe. There's been a lot of, man, thinking back, there's a lot of stuff that happened at the Joe. But the Zamboni one was kind of cool because I was backstage at the time, and we all had to kind of jump out of the way so he could drive through towards the ring with the Zamboni from the back.
It destroyed about thousands of dollars worth of equipment, it looked like.
Yeah, because the back... I don't know even what you call it. The blade that sits down that scrapes the ice kind of hooked a bunch of cables and wires and stuff and started dragging them around. And I was like on the side. There's a little parking spot where they park the Zambonis. So I was off in the side in there and just watched as everything drove by and kind of dragged everything along with it. It was kind of interesting.
It is kind of crazy, some of the stuff they allowed him to drive with fans in such close proximity. I mean, when you think about the beer truck, about the Zamboni, I mean, not even all that long ago. Do you remember the segment where Brock Lesnar destroyed the car and he took the door off and he just flung it, and it just came up short of nailing a fan? And I think that was probably a good wake-up call. Maybe we shouldn't be tossing doors around.
Oh, especially a guy like Brock Lesnar, when who's crazy strong to begin with, but then all of a sudden gets that shot of adrenaline because once you're in the moment. Yeah, maybe not a good idea. You
know, the heat of the moment when you tear a car door off, which I'm sure you've gone through in your days.
Oh, it happens all the time.
Well, this show, I don't know if it's going to feature any car doors, but it's probably going to feature some insane stunt. And I would say it's pretty much been promised on television from Shane McMahon and Kevin Owens that someone is falling off the top of the cell. They have also essentially given you a wink that there will be blood in this match. And I guess the expectation level is very high for what is going to happen in this match, but just talking about the feud, I think this has been the best feud on either program.
Yeah.
One of the best feuds of the year. I think it's like Shane McMahon getting involved in matches I've always never really gotten into, but this has been a program that both guys I think have been outstanding in their roles.
Absolutely, and you know, given Shane's limitations as far as his in-ring ability, putting him in a situation like this where you have that structure like the cell where he can show off his penchant for being an adrenaline junkie and a fearless, like, I'll do anything to get this match across mentality. And
they also have learned from the Undertaker match, where I know some people might complain, why are you having a Falls Count Anywhere match when it's a Hell in a Cell? Yeah. But it's to the betterment of the match, in my opinion, because you watch that Undertaker match, and up until the jump off the cell, like that match was just dying. Right. And this one, it at least gives them the free reign to get outside of the structure and do your crazy street fight, which is the strength of these two, is having that wild brawl around the arena and not having fans sit on their hands waiting for them to get to the top of the cell. I think you can do a lot of creative stuff up until the end.
Absolutely, and I'm expecting that. It's the anticipation. Somebody, of course, on Twitter said to me, well, they pretty much guaranteed that they're going to be leaving the cell, so that kind of like spoils it for... You kind of figured they were going to do it anyway. I mean, like, so what's the difference here? I mean, like, that's what... Now people are going to be looking forward to, okay, they have to exit the cell somehow. It's going to be a locked structure. How are they going to do it? Now the anticipation is, how are they going to get to that point? How are they going to get to the point where they're going to climb up the cell, get to the top, and perform whatever crazy thing they plan on doing? The other thing I like in the build-up to this is, I know some people had a complaint that, especially last week, why would Kevin Owens not have a problem standing up face-to-face with Sami Zayn and going toe-to-toe with him, but yet back out of the ring and seemingly run away from Shane? I like the fact that he basically is, from a storyline perspective, pushing Shane's buttons and causing him to get angrier, so to speak. So in that sense, being a heel works for Kevin Owens. And the other thing, too, I love about this is they've managed to take a guy like Kevin Owens, who is so well-loved by the internet community, if you want to call them that, the hardcore fans, the diehards, who are familiar with his past, who are going to cheer him regardless, but they've managed to even get them to boo and create an actual real heel here.
I think both roles have been so clearly defined. Like, we talk about how many struggles they have had getting over baby faces, and sometimes it is just the audience doesn't connect with them. Sometimes it is just they don't sympathize with a certain babyface. With Shane McMahon, like, I don't think this guy gets enough credit as just this babyface that the audience, it's this strong guy who is standing up for his family that is booked, relatively strong. He's kept protected. He only does a few matches a year.
Yep.
And with Kevin Owens, he's the kind of heel that it's completely believable to me that this guy would sell for Shane, that he would cower from him. Whereas The Undertaker, I couldn't buy that. I could not buy this guy selling those punches, being in any way concerned with Shane McMahon. And that, to me, it was a visual I could never get over.
Right.
And Owens is in this position where he can be this heinous villain and also cower. And it only strengthens that whole character. It's just, these two have great chemistry together. Yeah. I think it's been really well done. So when I crap on certain stuff, listen, I will totally give credit that this feud has been, I think, one of the best feuds of the year from the company. It's now the question is, Jimmy, how do you finish this on Sunday? Because there's certainly the argument that Shane prevails and pulls out the victory, but I think that you go the other way.
Don't have it with me. It's my proverbial...
Oh, the Booker's cap.
The Booker's cap. Do we have a pencil anywhere? Anybody got a pencil? Anyways, here is what I would like to see.
Floor is yours.
Let's say the match continues. Kevin Owens is mercilessly beating on Shane McMahon, refusing to pin him, refusing to beat him. They managed to get outside the structure, as you said, so there's no need to unlock the door to save him. Or maybe they work their way back into the structure and he locks the door behind him and continues the... maybe Stephanie comes out and pleads with the referee to unlock the cage and goes in and maybe tries to protect her brother. And when Kevin looks like he's about to maybe take liberties with Stephanie, Triple H's music hits.
Oh, wow.
Out comes the game. Off comes the jacket. Up rolls the sleeves. Comes in the ring. Turns around and lays a beating on Shane. And turns to Kevin Owens and says, "Have at him." And now you have Triple H as the guy who has been provoking Kevin Owens to attack the McMahon family, and this is the coup d'etat, so to speak, of Triple H over the McMahon family.
See, you and I had the exact same end goal, but different ways about it, because I envision something this Sunday where Shane is just beaten to a pulp. It ends, and the final shot is Stephanie is out as Shane's being wheeled to the back, and it just ends with like the death stare on Kevin Owens. No Hunter, but the next target for Kevin Owens, maybe a month from now, is he's going to take out Stephanie. And that's what leads to Hunter making his return and eventually sets up the Owens-Hunter program. But your idea, I like that, because you do have this connection with Owens and Hunter.
Going back to the Universal title. Yes.
That you link them together, and then Hunter takes over Shane's position, running SmackDown, and Owens is his guy. And it eventually, there is the the turn where Hunter and Owens can have their program, which I feel could be the Mania match for both.
Yeah.
I think you could definitely extend this to this point, but I feel most would assume Owens is super hot at the moment. Yes. I don't think he should lose this match.
No.
I think Shane loses. He disappears for a long time. And yeah, it could be the entryway for Hunter to come back to television, for Stephanie to come back, and I think they're better suited on SmackDown where Owens is.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different options. I think that this 100% has to go on last Sunday.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, with all due respect to the title match, this is the most heavily promoted match, and as you said,
I don't think the WWE title match is even the number 2 match on the show. Like, it feels like a very lukewarm program, and we can chat about it with Jinder Mahal and Shinsuke Nakamura. It's their second straight meeting on pay-per-view from SummerSlam to now, and I've got to say, this one has not, to me, clicked. I don't know what you do in this match. Do you beat Nakamura a second time? Do you do a quick... Because I feel Mahal is going to be the guy they want the title on for the foreseeable future. Do you do a Nakamura wins and drops it back at Survivor Series? Like, I'm not a big fan of any of these options, to be quite honest.
No, they have booked themselves into a tight spot right now, especially with putting Shinsuke Nakamura in that spot to be the contender for Jinder Mahal, if Jinder Mahal is your long-term plan as WWE champion. That being said, there is, if I'm not mistaken, they announced that they will be touring India.
December. They are doing
December, so it's a couple of months away. But then I can see both scenarios taking place, where Jinder Mahal goes into India as WWE champion and drawing huge numbers there, because it will. With him as champion, it will draw. But by the same token, being a huge babyface in India, him chasing the title and regaining it back in India would be huge news over there as well. So in that sense, I think you can go in both directions, but thinking long-term globally and just taking India out of the equation for right now, I think the title has to stay on Jinder Mahal because that's your long-term plan. Shinsuke Nakamura is further down the line, in my opinion, as far as potential WWE champion. I think he's a little bit hampered. You know, I was hoping that he was going to be the exception to the rule, because you talk about the ability to speak on the microphone as being a total package, especially in the WWE, to get a connection with the audience. And his limited English, I think, has kept him from actually making that connection with a broader audience as opposed to just the diehard or hardcore fans.
Yeah, it's... You know, I definitely foresee that Mahal retains on Sunday. I would say that's the likely outcome. And then the question becomes where you position Nakamura after this show, because a third straight match between these two just seems overkill. This second one feels like overkill. Yeah,
and hopefully they don't pull out the Punjabi prison again. So
you would hope. You would hope. But hey, Survivor Series tickets available now, folks. If, who knows where we will go with Jinder. And that's another question, is what baby faces do you have in the pipeline for Jinder Mahal after Nakamura? I mean, there's AJ Styles, and outside of that, really, who do you have? Unless Survivor Series, you're going to do the interpromotional, and you could take someone from Raw, for instance, for a month. I don't know where you go with Jinder after this, to be honest.
Yeah, it speaks volumes for the lack of depth on the babyface side, especially on the SmackDown roster. When you look at outside of Randy Orton and
we've been there.
Yeah, AJ Styles, which you can do depending on what happens on Sunday in that match. That's a potential one, but then again, where do you go with AJ in that match? Other than that, Bobby Roode isn't there yet.
No,
I don't think.
That'd really be rushing things with him.
Yeah, exactly, and you don't want to Sheamus him, so by thrusting him too much too soon.
The match that I feel is the number two match on the show is a Hell in a Cell match, and that's the New Day and the Usos for the tag titles. Tremendous feud that these two teams have had. I think the New Day, when they came over to SmackDown, I didn't know how they were going to fit in with a different tag division, and they found the Usos. They have brought the best out of one another. These two teams have really excelled throughout this feud, and the fact that they were on the Kickoff show at Battleground, and that was hands down the best match on that show, and then coming back at SummerSlam the way in which they did, I mean, they just have had great chemistry together. And now, do you like the idea of putting this in the cell?
I like it because it's different. Because we have had in the past maybe one or two. I'm not sure how many. Multi-person cell matches were tag matches in the cell. This changes the dynamic a little bit, and you've got 4, potentially 5 guys who can really deliver in, again, putting them in that structure and changing the game for them. The Usos have excelled big time ever since their heel turn. I love the Usos, and the New Day is going to be able to keep up as well. You got Kofi Kingston in there as well, which is going to obviously elevate the potential for some interesting spots that will happen in that match. But I really think that this has the potential, depending on how it is structured, to be match of the night, without doing the stunt-heavy type of stuff that we'll probably see in the other cell match. So it'll be completely different, I think, and more psychology and story-based inside the cell as opposed to crazy crash.
And this is also the big match you can do all the big near falls down the stretch with that you don't really need in the Owens Shane match. So I agree. I think it's going to be much different, and you'll distinguish the two cell matches. Mm-hmm. We have as well Natalya defending the SmackDown Women's title against Charlotte. This one, to me, probably not time to switch the title. I think they could extend this further, and it looks like they're doing that Starrcade match, which at this point it's just a live event. It won't be airing anywhere. But you would figure that Charlotte chasing Natalya is probably what continues after this show. Yeah,
I would think so. There's that old adage, the money is in the chase for the babyface. And thinking about the match, hopefully they are given enough time, because if we remember back a few years in NXT, those two had a tremendous match. And you would hope that several years later, with a little more experience and maturity from Charlotte, and of course Natalya's experience level, that they can at least match what they did at NXT a few years ago, if not surpass it. So again, high expectations for this match. Just hopefully they are given enough time to showcase.
Yeah, I still cling to the idea they could have of, because they've announced Ric Flair, he's going to be doing his first convention next month after his recovery. So he's going to be back on the road. That you have to imagine it's just a matter of time before he does an appearance on television. That idea of Charlotte winning the title, Flair is out there, and then Carmella's music hits, which is a Wei-Ting idea. I always will give credit. He came up with that idea a number of weeks ago. That's a hell of a scenario if you want to kick off Carmella winning the title and having a babyface to feud with coming out of it. That would be it. And Rick would love the idea.
Oh, of course he would.
So that, to me, is what could maybe happen down the road. Baron Corbin, AJ Styles for the United States title. Man, what a tremendous setup of Baron Corbin on Tuesday night. He lost the banana peel, the slip on the banana peel loss to Ty Dillinger, and now he's going for the title. Wonderful. I can't wait till AJ's out of this.
Guess what? That means Baron Corbin wins.
See, I hate that. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I hate that thinking that, we'll beat him now because he's getting the title Sunday. It's like, you're not bringing Baron up to a level. You're bringing the title down to his, and it just hurts everybody, including AJ. And I hate that kind of logic that they utilize at times. And you're right. It probably sets up Baron winning the U.S. title, which, wonderful.
Yeah, I guess that's the old school mentality and thinking by doing that. And also maybe in their mind thinking that with the pinfall victory on Tuesday, that automatically has another contender for Baron Corbin in Ty Dillinger. But I agree with you. I think the challenger going into the title match should look as strong as possible and look like a serious threat to dethrone the champion. Right now, he doesn't.
When you have someone that's established at a level, I'm not against the idea of you do that loss ahead of time to set up the future challenger, but you have to be able to have a solid read on the guy and where he's at. And Corbin needs all the help he can get at the moment. So I don't think doing trivial losses on TV really help. And that's where winning the title, I don't think it really advances him that much further. And if anything, that prolongs the AJ feud, because we know we'll get that rematch coming out of it. Of course. AJ just feels somewhat just on an island at the moment on SmackDown. He just feels like this odd piece to the puzzle that's not figured in, that could be, you could easily make the argument, the top performer on SmackDown or Raw.
Yeah.
And where he's at right now, it just seems like a very limiting role for AJ, who he's 40 years old right now.
Right.
I mean, the clock's ticking on him that you want to get the best out of him at the moment. And this feud just, to me, has not clicked.
No.
Dolph Ziggler and Bobby Roode will also be meeting. This is a battle over an entrance where Dolph has decreed entrances. So to show his disdain, he is coming up with the greatest entrance possible for Sunday.
That should be very interesting. At least they're not arguing over shampoo commercials.
That's true. We're not at that level yet.
Not quite yet. Yeah, and then looking at this, aside from the fact that their dispute revolves around glorious entrances, on paper, when you look at this on paper, you think to yourself, wow, Bobby Roode versus Dolph Ziggler. This should be, again, match of the night candidate.
Oh, this could be a great match if you take away all the setup for it.
Yeah, the only problem is sometimes what is expected from the match or what the goals are by the company coming out of this match. So it's not like where they're going to maybe say, okay, guys, here's what we want from this match. We want so-and-so to go over. Let's say Bobby Roode to go over. Go out there and have a great 20 minutes. It's almost like, okay, we want you to tell this story and tell this story and tell this story. So once you start feeding the story that you want told, it kind of limits the guys from doing what they want to do to have the best match possible, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I feel Roode wins this match, and I think, I don't know what really the goal is with Ziggler at this point. I just think it's so much has been thrown against the wall, and he's this classic character of someone that I just feel the audience has somewhat just rolled their eyes at. It's just been so many times over and over and over again that you're right. Just on paper, it could be a very good match between these two.
See, but the thing with Dolph Ziggler is I think he's cursed in the fact that he is the best utility player that they got. He's that guy that you can plug in anywhere, have great matches with anybody. He's good on the mic. He's just good all around. So he's their guy that instead of saying, okay, he's going to be our guy that we're going to strap the rocket to, he's going to be our guy when we need someone else to get someone else over, basically.
Yeah, that's kind of his role here with Roode. Randy Orton and Rusev. Okay, this is the opposite to me because with Roode and Ziggler, I feel it's like if you had just thrown the match out, I think they would have had it's a very good match that you're starting with, and I think the creative has kind of heard it. Whereas this one, if you were to tell me coming out of SummerSlam, well, we're going to continue with Randy Orton and Rusev, it's like, okay, whatever. And in this case, I think the creative has actually really worked for these two because I am more interested in this match after the last number of weeks. I think Rusev has been outstanding. Randy, when he's fully in the game and he sinks his teeth into a program, you really see the best of him come out. And I think that's been the case here. I think Aiden English has been a nice addition to Rusev. That these two, I think that they have really made something out of this program that wasn't lighting the world on fire when they announced, pre-SummerSlam that these two were going to be feuding with one another. And here we are in October, and I think they're peaking at the right time.
I think it's two things, and I think you hit the nail on the head, is when Randy Orton really feels like motivated, so to speak, and lately he seems to be motivated. I don't want to say he's the best performer on the roster because I'm going to give that title to AJ Styles, but again, he is the smoothest guy in the ring. He's just awesome. All around game is great, and like you said, I like the addition of Aiden English, and Randy's role at this stage in his career is obviously to help elevate others. Rusev is starting to show a little more character now.
Oh yeah,
and you're starting to get more invested in that now. That whole thing with the presenting the key to the city and stuff like that. He's showing a lot of. A little more range anyways, and it's a guy you can get into whether you like him or not as a heel or whatever it is. So
he plays off people so well, whether it was with Lana, whether it's now with Aiden English, even with the mayor of his hometown presenting the key. Like he's a great reactionary performer, I find, whether it's his facial expressions or just his lines that he responds with. I mean, he's quick on his feet, and I think that it's just those little characteristics that come through when he has another person to play off of.
Right, and that's a very good way to put it. That makes a lot of sense, and I totally agree.
And then we just have the kickoff match with Chad Gable and Shelton Benjamin against the Hype Bros. I think we see where this is going with the Hype Bros continuing their losing streak, and showcase for Gable and Benjamin, who, given where the tag division is going, if this is the end of that feud with the Usos and New Day, which it probably should be,
right.
Gable and Benjamin could be the next in line, because you don't have... you do have a number of teams on SmackDown, but no one that is your ready-made... tag title challengers next, so it could end up just being Gable and Benjamin.
Yeah, that looks like a possibility. Also, it looks like the eventual turn of Zack Ryder, because he obviously needs something if he's going to further evolve his character. He needs to get away from that broski thing.
Yes, so we will, the big countdown to the inevitable Mojo Rawley Zack Ryder feud.
Exactly.
Will be coming to a screen near you. That's Hell in a Cell. It's coming up Sunday night. You can watch that on the WWE Network, and then the Law will be coming at you midnight Eastern time. It will be myself and Jason Agnew this Sunday night. You can listen live at liveaudiowrestling.com. Follow him at Jimmy Korderas. He will be watching Hell in a Cell and interacting with you, so you can check all of that out. And that is it for us. We will chat with you ahead of TLC.